Good afternoon, everyone. There are a few people who are still joining, so we will keep, we'll wait. We won't wait for them. We'll just go ahead and get started with our agenda. Today, I have a little bit of news from LibLine. Work is progressing on version 5.20, and today I got notification from Jane saying that the documentation is in the process of being updated, and the release notes that she's been working on now contain references to which pages in the documentation have been updated. I wanted to get this, what I'm going to show you now, I wanted to get this on the wiki site before this meeting. And unfortunately, I discovered that the wiki organization evidently is under new management, and they had degraded the wiki site that we have. So I'm trying to get that back into place, but until then I can't post anything onto the site. I can change pages and add things in, but I can't add a new document. So for the meantime, what I have done is downloaded the file, and it's here on the screen right now. And as with other release notes, there are various columns on this particular form. There's the, you can read them as well as I, but the one is going to be probably the most useful to everyone is one where it has user manual section, which is in column F. So you can see that there are several that have information that has changed. The information that I have in the second item on the agenda, I did pull from this document. So I'm just going to show this very briefly to you right now. And what I am going to do is I'll email this to the Waldo support list, or the Waldo mailing list, Waldo support mailing list, so that you can look through the copy of this. Once I get the information from PB Works about the wiki account, I'll also make sure I get this posted onto the wiki site. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to show you something first that we've talked before, and which is also on our enhancement list. And that is the capability to suppress an item in the catalog. Okay, I'm going to go over here, and sorry, I have to move things around a little bit. Going to log into my account first. And show you that in this title, Kitty Knits, that I have 4 items that I've identified for the system. And underneath the second one in the availability column, it says item suppress. Okay, as long as I stay logged on, I'm going to keep seeing that item suppress under that second item in the list. But if I act like a patron and don't log in, so let me log out and then search for Kitty Knits again, you'll see that it still tells me there are 4 copies, but when I display the record, it's only showing me the 3 that are available. So the one that I suppressed is definitely suppressed. I'll be able to see immediately in staff mode what is going on with that particular record. But your public, when they're searching, they won't see that item. So with 5.20, you'll now be able to suppress individual items from displaying. Let me show you again also where this gets set up. And for this, I am not 100% sure how all of the setup goes, but I can give you a basic look at what it looks like. With 5.18, we had this new parameter field called item fields where we could define custom item level data. In 5.20, custom item statuses is being added into the system. And on this page, all it tells me is it defines statuses with circulation limits. I'm not going to try to even guess as to how to get all those set up, but I wanted to show you that one of the options on this particular table is called item suppress. And because this column that is labeled suppress is checked, that means that when the item is marked as suppressed in the staff mode, you won't be able to see that item in the public catalog. Now you'll notice that nothing else is checked on here, but it's just that one little check that enables the item suppress. I suspect that in the documentation, there will be additional information on how to set up those statuses. And my understanding is that you're not limited to what is here, that there's also an add custom item status. So if there is some kind of a status that you want to use that isn't on here already, excuse me, you can certainly set it up and use it. Okay, let me go back over here again. Okay, the pieces that I out of the release notes are some about circulation and some about other modules. The first one that I have listed here is revisions to the lost item processing. And I've been trying to understand what this all means because as I read this, it tells me that there are going to be 4 hard-coded statuses: long overdue, lost, trace, and missing. There's a new status for the lost items table, which I haven't looked at yet, but I did look in the Bevation and looked at the administration area and then looked at the authorized values because I wanted to see how if those authorized values were actually in here. Okay, so I found that they have in this test database, there's a lost old, and it has what most of you are familiar with, that there are different statuses that were available. When I go to the one that I assume is the new one, there's only one lost authorized value. So when the description says that it's hard-coded, I'm suspecting that it's hard-coded and the only status we have available to add to a record is lost, and then the system takes over from there, and based on other settings in your system preferences will move the records from one status to another. It also says that an item that's claims returned, it will be handled in this way. It will remove the lost item fee and the surcharge from the patron's account. And if it is found and then checked in, the patron will be charged the max fine overdue fine. So there's a whole lot of little things that are mixed up in here that we'll have to take a close look at when we get access to the software on your individual systems, because I think we'll want to play with that a little bit. My first impression when I saw this was I don't think that's how we're using it right now. So this is going to be a little bit of a difference. Hopefully it will be something that works there. And I'm just now looking at the chat. The fourth item showing in the total to the patron, that I was just playing around with some other things, so I'm not sure how I even got that there. But it is something that's going to work. The item will always show up in the staff module with that item suppressed logo on it. 520 is not in the Waldo sandbox yet. It's not in any of our sandboxes. It is something that I can access by going to the Vivation demo database, and that's how I am able to look at some of these things. Access to that is not wide open for everyone, so I'm just trying to get things identified that we will definitely have to look at. I wish I had a time to tell you about as well. I am not expecting it until in the sandboxes until late April, early May. And because I suspect that as the other Code Fusion partners start testing, they're going to find things that are going to be problems for them, and they will be working on fixes. The LibLab programmers will be working on fixes, and we'll probably end up with several point releases before it's ready. That's one of the questions that I have, Ann. I don't know what's going to happen to them, and that's something I'm making a list of things I need to ask Jane about, because you've used those lost statuses and you have items that are attached to those statuses. So I think we need a little bit more information about how that all is going to work. We don't want to lose anything, and I would certainly hate to lose any of the statuses that you've already applied. Okay. The lost patron card tracking has been added. In the version of the software that we're running now, if a patron loses their card, you can mark it lost. But then if you want to, or if you create a new patron account with a new ID and everything, or if you add a new ID, you're going to lose the old ID number. So what this does is it changes it so that the old barcode number is preserved and it is searchable on the system. Yeah, I understand, and that is something that I hope that we can get going quickly. Okay, the next one is something that those of you who want to have more control over the discovery layer displays will be happy about. Fields and patron records have all been given unique identifiers. At this point, I don't have a list of what those identifiers are, but I'll start poking around, seeing if I can find them. I do know that the the discovery layer customization guide is under revision right now, and I'm hoping we'll have some of this information in it. This I think will make customizing the patron record input form a whole lot easier than it was before. Okay, and there's a new serials module. I often wondered what they were going to do with having the serials that was in regular Koha and then the periodicals piece that was written for one of the public library sites. And evidently the decision is to merge them both together. So I haven't looked at the serials module. Let me rephrase that. I have looked at the serials module, but I haven't played around with it yet. I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen. I wanted to bring this one to your attention mostly for the second sentence, is that the data from both will be converted into the new format. And until I actually work with records, I'm not going to be able to tell you what the format is. But I think if the serials part doesn't lose anything that you already have, I think it'll be probably okay. It's just that we need to be able to see the data, and that we need to be able to do the normal routine things that we do in serials. Okay, and the final one that I have on here is that the discovery layer availability information has a unique identifier, so that you can add, so that available at message that shows up in the OPAC. Let's see if, no, I don't have that there. Okay, so I'll go back one more. So that in the results list, this area here is, I think, what they're referring to, that we can modify the wording that's in here. And I know that's something that some of you have wanted to be able to do for quite a while now. Okay. After I send the spreadsheet out to the Waldo support mailing list, please look through it. And if you have questions about anything, let me know what those questions are. In the email, I'll also send along the URLs for the documentation, so you can look at the updates that are in the documentation. I do have the manuals open up here, but I don't want to waste your time by trying to find pieces in there. And then as you have questions, either save them for the next meeting, or what would probably be even better is to send them to the Waldo support mailing list, and I can try and get answers from LibLine before our next meeting. Okay, any other questions about those few that I chose to bring out? Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the enhancement list. I have added some more update information to the enhancement list, and I'll let you know what's there. The first round of notes that I put in, I put them all in blue color, and the second ones that I put in, actually I put them in orange. I just didn't get that one color sent. I wanted to show you that on this one about a 3M RFID pad API, I did in fact send information back. That's what the update is, that I sent to Bank Street. And then Bank Street sent back the information, to me telling me that they would look into it and let me know if there was anything more than what's posted here that they can find out about. Okay, so the first one that's on the list for today is 2017 and 19. And what I did is, as I was looking through the list, things started to look alike to me. So I decided to, look for things that were the same. And I did find that the specific due time at point of checkout seemed to be very similar to the part, or to the number 19 that said we'd like to have hourly loans display the time. I figured that what would work with this would be a spec that covered both of those pieces of information. I was optimistic when I said I will post it because since I can't post anything, I didn't get that sent out to you. But I will show you what I have. And as you can see, this is a draft. I started out, with an overview. I tried to follow the pattern that we had in our other specs. And when I got down to here, I started thinking about how this would affect fines, if it would. And I decided I needed to ask questions about this. So the people who had submitted those two requests, if the time is going to be identified and the item is not returned by that time, are you going to want to have different parameters around what the fine will be, or will you just handle that by doing a manual adjustment in the patron's fines record? And you can think about that and send it to me offline, because that's where I was going next with that. Is as I was looking at the original hourly loan specification that we had, I am thinking that maybe they can, if there is a policy that covers material that's being loaned out. For example, I looked at some sites where they have reference material listed as no checkout, but there is an override option so they can check out for a day. And in those situations, there's usually not fines that are associated with those policies since there's a no checkout. So that's sort of what I was thinking about. And because I was thinking about that, I didn't get much more written. Okay, so I'll keep working on that one and see where we get with that. Okay, and the next one that I updated was numbers 12 and 15 that I merged together because they both talked about suppressing item records. And what I put in the update this time is I think this really doesn't have to be a request, but I don't want to say it's not a request until we see what the functionality is actually going to work like, so that you'll know what we'll be getting. So I showed that to you. I'll try to figure out a way to let you know or to let you see what the process is as I understand it, either by sending out a written document about it, or maybe recording something so that you can see how the processing works. But I'll have that figured out by next meeting. Okay, the next one, and I did annotate these so that I kept track of what was where originally. Okay, from the 520 release notes, it says that there will be the ability to move an item from one bib to another, leaving both bib records intact. And I have asked about this, if the item records and statistics are kept in track. And the answer that I got was yes, that the items and anything linked to the item number, such as checkouts, will remain intact. Again, I think I don't know why I crossed that or did a strike over, but what I think we need to do is keep this one in mind as we look at the software once we get it and see if that is actually doing what we want it to do. In the last update, I asked Ben for some additional information, and he wrote back that I haven't done anything more with this. I've spent some time looking at the statistics table from which all of the statistics are calculated. And there are some pieces in that table, or there are some pieces lacking in that table, which I know would help, like being able to base statistics on patron categories. The table looks like it includes something about patron categories, but when I did a report to see what actually was downloaded, I didn't see any patron categories in the output. So I am considering whether or not that has to be an enhancement or a bug. If the field was there and it isn't being populated, then I need to find out why it isn't being populated. So, so I think that once I can get some more of that information, I think that we'll be able to better handle number 30 and number 28. Okay, that's pretty much all that I have right now. Oh, you were told it had something to do with anonymization. Okay, I'll look at it from that angle and see if I can see what it's actually doing. Yeah, I agree. It should keep a statistic in the stats table, I would think. But I'll look into that a little bit more. The authorities enhancement ideas that are here, I haven't addressed yet. It's just that I'm trying to get the circulation and other things identified first. And I probably will go back and look at some of the old authorities work that's already been done and see if there are pieces that I can pull out of those draft specs that will get at what we want to do right here. And I will be asking Hartford in particular for some assistance on helping to define these a little bit further. Okay, any other comments about where we are on these enhancement ideas? Okay. I think I reported last time that South Central has worked on some testing scripts for the Code Fusion for the new version. I've looked at the titles, but to tell you the truth, I didn't look at them because I didn't look at the detail on them because it just seemed that they were working on getting the forms in there. I tried looking at some of the response tables, and so far there wasn't any data in any of them. So I'm not sure how they're coming on their testing, but I know that they do have access to their own sandbox. So that is something that we will, I'll be looking into and will be taking care of. I think that the February meeting of the Code Fusion group has been canceled due to ALA being around the same time. And I think that until the March meeting, anything that I learn about that will basically be via email or phone calls. So hopefully we'll get more information from the public libraries on how their testing is going. Okay, that's pretty much all that I had today. Are there other issues that you'd like to bring up? Any questions that you have other than about when is 520 going to be available? Okay, I don't see anything there. So I think that we're done for today. I have recorded the meeting and I have last time's meeting, and once I can post again to the wiki, I'll be able to get those up for you. Right after the meeting is done, I will email the spreadsheet that has the version 5.20 new features, enhancements, and fixes listed on them, and I'll watch for your questions about it. That's all that I have today.